Have you ever wondered what would happen when a former UFC champion and a skinny nerd who can't fight spar one another? No, of course you didn't. Nobody wonders that. That's not a question that anyone needed the answer to, but we got it. All it really did was give us more questions like, was Sean Strickland sparring too hard? Not really. This is actually fairly moderate compared to what happens in MMA gyms all the time. This scenario has played out in here and at every gym that I've ever been a part of, and I've been on both sides of this equation. I've been in Sneako's shoes, and I've been in Sean Strickland's shoes. Hell, I've even been in Griffin's shoes. When this thing first came out, it was just a bunch of short clips from different angles. I didn't even notice that was him until Sensei Seth pointed it out to me. And there's a lot of stuff like that happening in this video that's very interesting, including the answer to what I think is the most important and most interesting question. Not what happened. That's all anyone ever wants to talk about. What happened? Why did it happen? And I suspect that it might be daddy issues. If you are interested in what happened, there's a ton of people who broke that down. The short version is Sean Strickland, an MMA fighter who's very vocal about hating influencers, and Sneako, I really don't know what Sneako is. I think he's just one of those streamers or influencers that that's what they're famous for. And Sean Strickland hates guys like that. Sean Strickland views them as less than men. He doesn't consider Sneako a man. I have to admit, when I first saw it, I thought it was a little much, but then I changed my mind because Jake Shields and them told him that this would happen.
Yeah. It's stupid because you're not a pro, but there's guys that just want to they think it's funny to knock you out because your boy Strickland. If he hopped in and sparred with him, he'd knock him out for sure.
He would?
Oh, for sure.
Everyone keeps in the second saying he trains here.
He's cool. He's cool. He's cool, but don't ask him to spar.
Don't ask him to spar?
No, he'll try to knock you out.
There's no levels to Sean's.
Chad, should I ask him to spar or no?
If you want to get beat up.
Asked me if I would meet up with you, and I said, well, if he wants to meet up, I'd spar him, so he agreed.
Wait, so Sean, do I earn the podcast now?
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
All right.
Let's make it 3.
So that might make you think, oh, well, he's an adult. He agreed to it. He knew what he was in for. He didn't. There's no way he could have known, even though they told him. In the past, when Sean Strickland has gone viral for sparring too hard, I have defended him in videos. When you watch this, when you look at this, depending on how sadistic you are, you might have a couple of reactions. It could range anywhere from, man, that was a little hard to watch, to, that's what he gets. That's what he gets. That reaction, I want to talk about that real quick. I want to get to the why of that. Why, if you're one of the people that sees Sneako getting his ass kicked by a professional MMA fighter, and you're like, I'm glad that happened. Why? I mean, I get it. You don't like when someone is more famous than you personally think they should be. I know that. But why? Wanting someone to get hurt is a little different. So why does Sean want to hurt people? Why did Sean want to hurt him? Why did this happen? Whew. It's kind of dark and it's kind of crazy, and you're going to think I'm just making a wild-ass guess. Sean Strickland has been pretty vocal and transparent about his feelings on this subject. He was trying to make a man out of Sneako. Now, whether you believe him or not is a different story, but that's definitely what he is communicating. You might think that's not true. He's just a bad person that wants to hurt people, and he uses that as an excuse to justify picking on someone who's smaller, weaker, and not as good at fighting as him. And he's just a bully. I hate to use that word, but that's essentially what you might think. It's going to be tough to defend Sean Strickland on this, but I'm going to try. I don't think Sean Strickland is a bad person. I think he's an asshole. But it's not for sparring too hard. This is actually not sparring too hard. This is okay. Also, this is okay. This is the part that's not okay. You can spar light or you can spar hard. But if you are the one who initiates a change in intensity of sparring, you are the asshole. But does that make you a bad person? Not necessarily. I think that if Sean Strickland were just as new at something as Sneako is at this, that's how he'd want to be treated. That's what he would want you to do to him if he couldn't fight. He really does believe this, in my opinion. You might think, Mike, you're not a psychologist. These are just your wild ass guesses. But I didn't get here out of nowhere.
Here we go, bro. You're doing so good. No way, don't worry, it's coming. You're a very tough influencer. Oh, you're about to have a really bad fucking day in the next minute.
What is Sean Strickland doing in this clip? He is showing his superiority, drawing attention to Sneako's inferiority, using shame, embarrassment, physical pain, and fear to motivate Sneako through this lesson in the hopes that he comes out more the way Sean thinks he should be. If you've ever had a dad, that may or may not have been part of your experience. And individually, in little doses, a lot of that stuff is manageable, but this here, this is unhealthy. But I'm pretty sure he gets it honest. I mean, he's been pretty clear about his upbringing in his content. So you gotta meet him where he is. Like, he thinks this is what's right and wrong. He thinks this will elevate and lift other men up. And you might disagree about whether or not this is actually up, but that's what he believes. The daddy issues aren't done though, because we got Sneako to deal with. And I want you to look at Sneako's face right here. Look at the face of this man. And I can tell you what he's thinking. I've been here before. I've been in this moment before. You just had your ass kicked by a person who, like, you kind of knew you were going to get your ass kicked. You thought you knew what you were in for, and then found out it was something very different. If you've had your ass kicked by a coach or a training partner, you've experienced this. It's the most sad and frustrating thing. Because as a man doing like manly shit, you're hurt and you're scared and you feel a little betrayed. And you're afraid that if you vocalize any of this, you're a bitch. When you get hurt like that, physically, mentally hurt by a person, and I know that he shouldn't have trusted Sean, but there's no way that he could have known what was going to happen. Sean knew that Sneako didn't know.
They should be sending him right now. There's nothing he can do can hurt me.
He knew exactly what was going through Sneako's mind because he's been there. He's felt that. At some point in his life, he felt that powerless and that helpless. So mistakes were made all the way around, but perhaps there was no bigger mistake than the one made by Forrest Griffin. Because Forrest was in the cage when it started. He was worried. Forrest was worried because they know Sean. But he watched. He was standing in the cage. Apparently at some point, here's where he made his mistake. He said, oh, okay, this looks fine. They got it. And he left the cage. He went across the room to go train. Do you know where he was when he decided to come break this up? Right here. That's him back there. I've made that mistake. I've broken up quite a few of these things. I've mopped up some blood in here. But we learn Forrest will never do that again. Now, as for Sneako and Sean Strickland, what could they learn from this? What if instead of Sneako coming to a place where Sean's the man in exchange for Sean going into a place where Sneako's the man, what if we just created a place in the middle where they're both the man? What if Sneako and Sean talk about influencers and like why Sean doesn't like him? And then what if Sneako says, hey, I don't know a lot about fighting and I would like to know more. And then Sean kind of explains it to him and shows him some things, teaches him some things. And they share ideas. Sean would understand Sneako better. Sneako would understand Sean better. And the entire world would understand both of them better. But I guess that just wouldn't be interesting. That wouldn't be as viral as this clusterfuck of a sparring in a cage. How do I know that? I didn't even have to guess. How do I know that? Because Jake Shields and Sneako already made that content. In fact, Sneako not only did great, he kept his feet, and Sean was definitely trying to drop him. Sean Strickland was for sure trying to knock Sneako the fuck out, and he couldn't. He was definitely trying and couldn't. That's a little embarrassing. Just a quick aside, if you want to know how that happens, sometimes even when you possess the ability and skill to do a thing and you try too hard to do it, it won't happen. You know, they tell you if you chase the knockout, you lose the decision. This is similar to that. I think if Sean had just like boxed him normally, a knockout could have happened. Or, I don't know, maybe you could have just sparred him normally and had some fun and taught him something. Now, with all those different interpretations of what happened and why it happened, all the emotions involved, all the characters in play. The saddest, craziest part is how Sneako feels after, because he still wants Sean's respect and approval, even though he shouldn't want it, even though he doesn't need it. He should be like, fuck that guy. But there's still a piece of him that's like, do you think he likes me? Sneako might not ever admit that. Most people in this situation or this type of situation aren't going to admit that. But when you are abused the way that Sean abused Sneako, they could still bring you back in. Like they could say certain words or do something that would make you be like, oh yeah, or can we be cool? Even though you were the one that was wronged. It's fucked up.